The third section is not less important than the preceding. It explains the nature and principles of our institution and teaches the entered apprentice to discharge with propriety the duties that devolve upon him as a man and a Mason, which are in no way incompatible with those of a good citizen. It also teaches him whatever relates to the form, supports, covering, and furniture, ornamentation, lights, and jewels of the lodge with its situation and dedication. A lodge is an assemblage of Masons, duly congregated, having the Holy Bible, square, and compasses, and a charter or warrant authorizing them to work. Mountains and other high places were almost always considered holy and peculiarly appropriate for religious purposes. We have abundant evidence in Scripture that the Jews were accustomed to worship on the tops of the highest hills, as it was believed that sacrifices offered from these elevated places were most acceptable to the deity. It is not improbable that our ancient brethren, before they had more convenient places for meeting, held their lodges on hills, or in valleys, or in retired groves. The form of a lodge is familiar to every Mason, and its dimensions are said symbolically to be unlimited. They extend in length from east to west, in breadth from north to south, in height from earth to heaven, in depth from the surface to the center. They are symbolical of the universe, which is limitless on every side and is the proper temple of the deity whom we serve, whose canopy is the heaven and whose footstool is the earth. The unlimited dimensions of a lodge may also be said to denote the universality of the order, which embraces men of every country. The Masonic institution is said symbolically to be supported by the three great pillars of wisdom, strength, and beauty, because it is necessary there should be wisdom to contrive, strength to support, and beauty to adorn all great and important undertakings. An institution thus supported is impregnable from without, and its foundations can be shaken only when discord reigns within. The covering of a lodge is the canopy of heaven, where all good Masons hope at last to arrive. But the aid of that theological ladder which Jacob, in his vision, saw reaching from earth to heaven, the three principal rounds of which are denominated faith, hope, and charity, and which admonish us to have faith in God, hope in immortality, and charity to all mankind. The greatest of these is charity, for our faith may be lost in sight. Hope ends in fruition, but charity extends beyond the grave into the boundless realms of eternity. A lodge is said, symbolically, to be situated due east and west, because after Moses had led the children of Israel across the Red Sea, he erected by divine command a tabernacle, which he placed due east and west to receive the first rays of the rising sun and to commemorate that mighty east wind by which their miraculous deliverance was effected. Our ancient brethren dedicated their lodges to King Solomon, but since the introduction of Christianity, they are dedicated to the memory of Saint John the Baptist and Saint John the Evangelist in all Christian countries. Since their time, there is represented in every well-furnished lodge a certain point within a circle, the point representing an individual brother, the circle the boundary line of his duty to God and man, beyond which he is never to suffer his passions, interests, or prejudices to betray him on any occasion. The two parallel lines represent Saint John the Baptist and Saint John the Evangelist, and on the top rests the Holy Scriptures. In going around this circle, we necessarily touch upon these two lines as well as the Holy Scriptures, and while a Mason keeps himself circumscribed within their precepts, it is impossible he should materially err. The furniture of a lodge consists of the Holy Bible, square, and compasses. The Holy Bible points out the path which leads to happiness and is dedicated to God, because it is the inestimable gift of God to man. The square teaches us to regulate our conduct by the principles of morality and virtue, and is dedicated to the master because, being the proper Masonic emblem of his office, it is constantly to remind him of the duty he owes to the lodge over which he is called to preside. The compasses teach us to circumscribe our desires in every station, and are dedicated to the craft because, by due attention to their use, they are taught to keep their passions within due bounds. The ornaments of a lodge are the mosaic pavement, the indented tessel, and the blazing star. The mosaic pavement is a representation of the ground floor of King Solomon's temple, the indented tessel of that beautiful tessellate border which surrounded it. The mosaic pavement is emblematical of human life, checked with good and evil, and reminds us of the precariousness of our state on earth. Today, our feet tread in prosperity. Tomorrow we totter on the uneven paths of weakness, temptation, and adversity. The tessellated border is emblematical of those blessings which we hope to attain by a faithful reliance on divine providence, which is hieroglyphically represented by the blazing star in the center. A lodge has 3 symbolic lights. One of these is in the east, one in the west, and one in the south. There is no symbolic light in the north because King Solomon's temple, of which every lodge is a representation, was situated so far north of the ecliptic that neither the sun nor the moon at high meridian could dart one ray into the northern part thereof. The north, therefore, Masonically speaking, is a place of darkness. A lodge has 6 jewels, 3 immovable and 3 movable. The immovable jewels are the square, level, and plumb, and are so called because they are worn by the 3 stationed officers. These jewels teach us to regulate our actions by the plumb line of truth, to level our pride with the plane in which God has designed us to move, and to square our conduct by the precepts of Holy Writ and the dictates of enlightened reason. By them, when united, we are reminded of the natural equality of the human family. At the same time, we are admonished neither to despise the humble nor look with envy upon the great. They also teach us that as Masons we meet on that decorated carpet which recognizes no distinction of blood or fortune and spurs no footstep but that of immorality and crime. The movable jewels are the rough ashlar, the perfect ashlar, and the trestle board. The rough ashlar is a stone taken from the quarry in its rude and natural state. The perfect ashlar is a stone made ready by the tools of the workman to be adjusted by the fellow craft. The trestle board is for the master workman to draw his designs upon. By the rough ashlar, we are reminded of our rude and imperfect state by nature. By the perfect ashlar, of that state of perfection at which we hope to arrive by a virtuous education, our own endeavors, and the blessing of God. By the trestle board, that is the operative Mason erects his temporal building by the rules and designs laid down by the master on his trestle board. So should we, both operative and speculative, endeavor to erect our spiritual building in accordance with the designs laid down by the supreme architect of the universe in the great book of nature and Revelation, which is our spiritual, moral, and Masonic trestle board.